You don't deserve much, Dad. That's why we just got you a lottery ticket. That's what my daughter, Jessica, said to me on Father's Day, right there in her living room in Springfield, Missouri. She said it while handing her father-in-law, Jim, a shiny envelope holding cruise tickets to the Bahamas. The whole family laughed. Everyone, except me. I sat there, my calloused hands clutching a $2 scratch-off ticket like it was a participation ribbon. My heart sank, but I forced a smile. Before I continue, if you're new here, please like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let me take you back. My name's Daniel Morris. Folks just call me Dan. I'm 61 years old, born and raised in Missouri. I worked 37 years at the same steel plant on the edge of town. Double shifts, overtime, weekends, you name it. I gave that place everything until my knees finally gave out, and the company graciously pushed me into early retirement with a pat on the back and a pension barely enough to cover utilities. I didn't complain. I told myself, at least, I raised good kids. Jessica was my pride. My only daughter. Her mom, my ex-wife Susan, left me years ago when she decided life with a traveling salesman sounded more exciting than life with a man who came home every night covered in sweat and steel dust. After she left, I poured everything I had into Jessica. I packed her lunches. I drove her to debate tournaments. I co-signed the loan for her first car. And when she got married to Brian, a mild-mannered accountant whose parents lived in a two-story house across town, I walked her down the aisle with tears in my eyes. I thought I was gaining a son. But what I really gained was distance. Because the more she got wrapped up in Brian's world, the less she seemed to need me in hers. Holidays turned into awkward invitations, calls became shorter, and now, on Father's Day, she made it clear where I stood. The cheap gift, the afterthought. I stared at that lottery ticket, the cheap cardboard scratching at my palm, while Jim, the father-in-law, grinned, waving his cruise tickets around. Bahamas. "Baby!" he shouted, slapping Brian on the back. "You sure know how to treat your old man." Everyone laughed again. My daughter laughed. I didn't. Because right then, in that moment, something inside me cracked. They wanted to make me the fool, the washed-up dad with nothing left to give. But what they didn't know was that fate has a funny way of leveling the playing field, and that worthless little lottery ticket they tossed me, it was about to change everything. I sat there at Jessica's dining room table, staring at the little cardboard ticket like it was mocking me. A $2 scratch-off. Not even a Powerball. Jim leaned back in his chair, his hand resting proudly on his belly. "Now this is how you honor fathers," he boomed, waving his cruise tickets again. 7 days on the ocean, drinks included. "Can't beat that." Jessica kissed him on the cheek. "You deserve it, Jim. You've been such a rock for Brian and me." Her words hit me like a slap. You've been such a rock. And me? I was invisible. Brian smirked across the table at me. "Go ahead, Dan. Scratch it off. Maybe you'll win $5. Then you can buy yourself a burger." The room chuckled. My daughter actually laughed with them. I forced a smile, though my stomach twisted. I picked up the little coin they'd Felipe left for me, and with slow, deliberate strokes, I started scratching the silver film away. At first, nothing, just numbers. The laughter grew louder, conversation drifting back to the cruise. But then, my heart skipped. The first number matched. Then the second. I rubbed harder, my pulse racing. Third, fourth, all lined up. I blinked, staring at the row of Numbers that spelled out something impossible. $120,000. I froze. My hand trembled. Dad? You okay? Jessica finally noticed, sipping her wine. I slid the ticket into my shirt pocket before anyone could look too close. Yeah, I muttered. Just tired. Long day. Brian snorted. You're retired, Dan. Every day's a long day for you. The table roared with laughter again. Jim slapped his knee so hard his face turned red. And me? I just sat there in silence, the weight of that ticket pressing against my chest like a secret burning hole in my pocket. Dinner went on. Roast beef, potatoes, cheesecake. Not once did anyone ask me how I was doing. Not once did my daughter thank me for the years I carried her through life. When the plates were cleared, Jessica hugged Jim again. We'll make sure you and Mom have the time of your lives on that cruise. Then she turned to me, half-hearted, like she'd forgotten. Thanks. For coming, Dad. Don't forget your ticket. Maybe it'll give you a little luck. I smiled, but my voice came out low and steady. Maybe more than you think. She laughed, thinking I was joking. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't a joke. This was justice. That night, I drove home, in silence. The old Ford rattled, headlights cutting through the dark Missouri back roads. My hands gripped the wheel, my mind spinning. I couldn't believe it, couldn't even process it. Me, Dan Morris, the man they mocked, the man they dismissed, holding a winning ticket worth $120 million. But here's the thing about life-changing secrets. They don't stay quiet for long. And once the truth came out, the very people who laughed at me were about to come crawling. I didn't sleep that night. I kept pulling the ticket out of my pocket, holding it up under the yellow lamp in my kitchen, making sure I wasn't dreaming. $120,000. The zeros stared back at me, almost laughing. I laid it on the table beside my coffee cup and whispered, Well, Dan, looks like life finally threw you a bone. The next morning, I drove to the First National Bank downtown. Not to cash it in. Not yet. No, I needed advice. Real advice. I sat across from my old friend, Larry Benson, who'd been a banker in Springfield, longer than I'd been alive. His gray mustache twitched when he saw the ticket. Good Lord, Dan, he muttered, adjusting his glasses. You've hit the jackpot. Yeah, I said quietly, but I don't want to be stupid about it. I've seen what money does to people. Larry leaned forward. First step. Don't tell a soul. Not your family. Not your neighbors. No. 1. Second, get yourself a lawyer who knows trusts and estates. Third, we'll open you a private account when the claim clears. Quiet. Secure. I nodded. Good. Because, Larry, I don't plan on handing this money to folks who already showed me exactly what I mean to them. Larry gave me a look, like he half understood, half worried. Dan, be careful. This kind of money, it can turn wolves into family. Family. The word stung. That night, I sat in my recliner, beer sweating in my hand, thinking about Jessica's words. You don't deserve much, Dad. And I thought about every double shift I'd pulled, every lunch I skipped so she could have her field trip money, every dollar I saved to buy her first prom dress. And now, she bought her father-in-law a cruise and tossed me a lottery ticket like a scrap bone. I made up my mind right there. I wasn't just going to enjoy this win. I was going to use it. I was going to show Jessica and her smug husband that the man they dismissed still had teeth. So I hired a lawyer, Margaret Fields, sharp as a tack, The kind of woman who could slice through legal jargon like butter. She drew up a trust. My name, my rules. Nobody could touch a dime unless I allowed it. And she gave me one piece of advice. When you reveal this, do it on your terms. Make sure it counts. Springfield being what it is, a town where gossip moves faster than wind, word started to leak before I even said anything. Someone saw me walking into Margaret's office. Someone else swore they saw a lottery rep's car near my house. By the end of the week, whispers floated through Miller's diner. Did you hear about Dan Morris? Old boy hit it big, they say. Nah, Dan, he's broke. Drives that rusty Ford. Well, that's what makes it juicy, ain't it? I kept my head down, sipping my coffee, pretending not to hear. But inside, I smiled. Because I knew the storm was coming, and sure enough, it didn't take long. The phone rang late Friday night. Jessica's voice. Sugar sweet. Hi, Dad. How are you? Haven't heard from you in a bit. I leaned back in my recliner, letting the silence stretch. I'm fine. Why the sudden interest? Oh, just wondering if you're doing okay. Heard you might have come into some money? There it was. I let out a low chuckle. Funny, Jess. Last week you said I didn't deserve much. Now you're checking in on me? She went quiet, then stumbled over her words. That's not... I didn't mean it like that, Dad. You know I love you. Do you? I asked calmly. Or do you love what you think I'm holding in my pocket? Silence. Then, faintly, Brian's voice in the background. Ask him, Jess. Just ask. I hung up. Because if they wanted to come crawling, they were going to do it in front of everyone. And I already knew the place. The Sunday family dinner at Jessica's house, where they always invited Jim, where I was always the afterthought. This time, I'd be bringing my little secret to the table. Sunday dinner smelled like roast chicken and garlic bread when I stepped through Jessica's door. Same house, same table, same faces. Jim was already there, glass of red wine in hand, bragging about the cruise again. 7 days, balcony suite, unlimited drinks, he crowed. Now that's how a daughter honors her father. Jessica laughed, glowing with pride. Brian grinned like he'd just won a medal. And me? I sat quietly at the far end of the table, same spot I always got, napkin folded neat across my lap. Nobody asked me how I was doing. Nobody even noticed the envelope I slid onto the table. Dinner rolled on. Salad, chicken, mashed potatoes. That usual chatter about work and neighborhood gossip. Then Brian finally turned to me. So, Dan, he said casually, heard some rumors around town. Folks at the diner were saying you hit it big. Lottery, maybe? Jessica leaned forward, her eyes hungry. Yeah, Dad. Is it true? I looked at them both, then at Jim, who was swirling his wine like a king. I took a slow breath. Funny thing, I said. Last week, you gave me a lottery ticket as a joke. Told me I didn't deserve much. Jessica's face flushed. Dad, I didn't. I held up a hand, calm, steady. It's all right. Because that little joke turned into something real. I slid the envelope across the table. Inside that is confirmation from the Missouri Lottery Commission. I won $120 million. Silence. The kind that sucks all the air out of the room. Jim nearly dropped his glass. Brian's jaw went slack. Jessica's hands trembled as she pulled the papers out, her eyes widening with every line she read. Oh my God, she whispered. It's true, Brian's voice cracked. Dan, buddy, we didn't mean anything by the jokes. We're family. I leaned forward, my voice low and sharp. Family? Last week, you laughed in my face. You made me a punchline. You called another man your rock. And you gave me scraps. Jessica's eyes brimmed with tears. Dad, please. That wasn't fair of us. But you know we love you. Jim cleared his throat, trying to recover his swagger. Hey, Rick, Dan, look, money changes things. But we're all family here. Maybe we can celebrate together. Maybe Bahamas has room for one more. I laughed. A deep, bitter laugh. You don't get it. This money isn't yours. It never will be. I stood, pushing my chair back, the legs scraping against the hardwood. For 61 years, I gave and gave. And for what? To be treated like an old fool in the corner. Well, not anymore. I pointed to the papers still shaking in Jessica's hands. That ticket! You thought it was worthless. Just like you thought I was worthless. But life has a way of flipping the script, doesn't it? Their faces told me everything. Fear, regret, desperation. I grabbed my coat, slung it over my shoulder, and headed for the door. Dad! Jessica cried. Please, don't walk out like this. We can fix it. We can be a family again. I paused at the doorway, hand on the frame. My voice came out steady, almost cold. You should have thought about family before you handed me that ticket and laughed. And then I left them sitting there. Cruise tickets on one end of the table, lottery confirmation on the other, 2 gifts, 2 fathers, and only one of us walking out with dignity. But this story wasn't finished yet. Because money changes people, and I knew they weren't done trying to sink their claws into me. I didn't hear from Jessica for 3 days after that dinner. 3 long, quiet days where I half expected her to show up on my porch, crying, begging. Instead, it was Brian who came, knocking. His shiny pickup idled in my driveway, the bass from his radio thumping like a heartbeat. He stood there with a fake smile plastered on his face. Dan, my man, he said, as if we'd been lifelong buddies. Look, Jess and I, we feel terrible about everything. We were just joking that night, and it came out wrong. We love you. You know that. I leaned against the doorframe. What do you want, Brian? He chuckled nervously. Nothing. Well, maybe just some advice. You've never had this kind of money before, and I happen to know a lot about investments. Maybe I could help manage some of it for you. I couldn't help but laugh. Brian, I wouldn't trust you to manage my lawnmower. His smile cracked, and the anger underneath showed for just a second before he smoothed it over. Fine, have it your way. But don't come crawling to us when the money ruins you. I shut the door in his face. 2 days later, Jessica finally called. Her voice was strained, sharp, almost panicked. Dad, Brian's out of work. We're behind on the mortgage. The cruise isn't refundable, and we need help. Just a little. Please. I sat there, listening to the same daughter who once told me I didn't deserve much, now begging for a bailout. I'm sorry, Jess, I said softly. I already gave you my gift. You just didn't recognize it when you had it in your hands. Her voice cracked. Dad, please, don't do this. But I did. Because for once in my life, I wasn't the fool at the table, waiting for scraps. In the months that followed, their world unraveled. The bank foreclosed on their house. Brian's truck got repossessed. Jim, the mighty father-in-law with his big cruise, came back broke and bitter, refusing to even look Jessica in the eye. Meanwhile, I moved into a small but beautiful lakefront, home just outside of Springfield. Nothing flashy, nothing gaudy, just peace. Mornings with coffee on the dock, evenings with the sound of water lapping at the shore. I donated to the local library, the fire department, and Miller's Diner, where I still drink my coffee. Folks treat me different now, sure, but I keep my circle small. And sometimes, when the gossip turns to Jessica and Brian, how they lost everything, how pride and greed brought them down, I just sip my coffee and say nothing, because the truth speaks for itself. They gave me a lottery ticket as an insult, and it became the very thing that set me free. Poetic justice, and I wouldn't trade that feeling for all the cruises in the world. Tell us your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories.